So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maurya Hanspal, and in this session, we will continue our sessions on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So in the previous session, we tried to understand what exactly is Web 3.0 and why is this Web 3.0 an improvement over the Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. We also tried to understand the top confusions. We tried to understand that what exactly is the difference between the blockchain and a cryptocurrency, and both of them do not mean the same thing. We also try to understand the difference between a cryptocurrency and a token. A cryptocurrency always has its own blockchain. A token runs on the other's blockchain. Types of cryptocurrencies we talked about, stable coins and shit coins के difference के बारे में हमने बात करी. We talked about the ICO, the initial coin offering. We talked about the working of the blockchain network, how the blockchain network works, how the transactions are stored and validated by the miners, and the process is called mining, and how a new hash function is created by the process of the cryptography, and how these hash functions must be matched with the previous hash functions. So all these things we tried to analyze. Then we were talking about a few of the terms most commonly used in the cryptocurrency and the blockchain network. The first one was the public ledger. So when we talk about the public ledger means that everyone is involved into this network and there is no centralized system. Okay, so basically, anyone can view the transactions because, like, when it's a centralized system in terms of our currency and all, the RBI or the central government is involved, and they have the details of all the transactions, and they can centralize and they can increase the money supply in the economy or reduce the money supply in the economy. But these things are not present on the blockchain network, and that is why it's a decentralized network because, like, no one is governing the system, and it's a public ledger because the people can generally see these transactions going all around and can, like, validate these transactions by seeing the hash functions. Okay, now it's a peer-to-peer network. And why it's a peer-to-peer network? Because ultimately, if I want to buy something from the second person, okay, it's a peer-to-peer network. Like, for example, if I want to buy a thing from the second person or a cryptocurrency from the second person, he's my peer. Okay, so that person might have bought it from someone else. That third person might have bought it also from someone else. Okay, so ultimately it becomes a peer-to-peer network. Okay, then the cryptography. So what do we mean by cryptography? The cryptography is your technique of creating the hash function. In the previous slide, like when we talk about this hash function, like this previous hash and hash has been created. So when these hashes have been created, the process of creating these hashes is called the cryptography. Okay. Then we have the consensus algorithm. What do we mean by the consensus algorithm? It's an important thing. For example, if the transaction is being mined, okay, and basically the miners are looking into, like, this hash function is like matching with this hash function. They need to have a consensus algorithm, that is all the miners who are present between these two blocks. They must come to a same conclusion, to a same analysis, and they might say that these hashes are matching. If all these people say that the hashes are matching, only then it means that the transaction is validated and there is nothing wrong. The transactions have to be validated. Until and unless they're validated, the transactions cannot go further, and you cannot say that the chain is not being tampered. So all of these people have to verify, and all of these people have to come to a consensus. Even if a single person does not consent, the transaction is not validated. Okay, and this is thing we also call it as the proof of work. Proof of work. And as proof of work, they get bitcoins. For every transaction that they do, they get bitcoins. And that is also called a reward system. Basically, वो जितनी mining कर रहे हैं तो उनको reward मिल रहे हैं, and that is called a crypto reward or the Bitcoin reward. That is ultimately to boost their enthusiasm for mining, because अगर वो mining कर रहे हैं and उनको कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है तो वो mining क्यों करेंगे, right? Because ultimately, if anyone is working in any of the organization, he wants some money for that. He won't be working for free. Okay, so for all these things that he is doing, he needs to get a reward, and the reward is given in the form of Bitcoin. And further, this process is also called Bitcoin halving. इसको Bitcoin halving भी बोलते हैं because starting में जब Bitcoins mine होते थे, हर 4 साल में the Bitcoin reward gets halved. Earlier it was 25, then it got halved to 12.5. Currently it's 6.25. अगले 4 साल बाद it will be 3.125. Then उसके बाद like 1.7312 to 1.2.5, and then उसके आगे 0.56216. मतलब कुछ ऐसे करते करते ना, मतलब कि 4 से डिवाइड होता रहेगा. Okay, and that is the halving process, Bitcoin halving. मतलब कि बाय 2 से होता रहेगा हर 4 साल में. दैट्स द बिटकॉइन हाफिंग दैट गोज ऑन. And why this Bitcoin halving goes on to reduce the supply of the Bitcoin, because those are limited, as I told you, like 21 billion, 2 crore 10 lakh in terms of rupees. Okay, and that's called the proof of work. So like when we talk about the proof of work, as I told you, all these people must like consent with each other, and they must have a consensus algorithm that they're consenting with each other, that nothing is wrong and everything is going fine. So the biggest drawback of the biggest advantage of the proof of work is that they're mining the transaction to the best of their heart and to the best of their effort कि यहाँ पे कुछ गलत ना हो. But the biggest drawback of the proof of work is, since all these people have high computing power and people are like involved here, मतलब बहुत लोग involved हैं यहाँ पे, and they have like high computing power. Okay, so the thing that can create an issue is, यहाँ पे कुछ पावरफुल माइनर्स भी हो सकते हैं. हो सकता है, मान लो मैं यहाँ पे जाता हूँ, मान लो कि 2 ब्लॉक्स हैं, block 1 and block 2, and miners are like validating these transactions. वो हैश को मैच कर रहे हैं, हैश को मैच कर रहे हैं. Now they're matching the hash. अब just assume there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 miners. उसमें से these 5 miners are the most powerful miners. They have money, they have high electricity power, big computers and all these stuff. And this is a person who has like less power. So these people can influence this person. मान लो कुछ fraud करना है and इन लोगों को कहीं से they know that they want to do some fraud here. ये सारे मिल गए because like they were the most powerful one and ये रह गया. So this person will have to listen to all of these because ultimately they are the most powerful one. They have high electricity power, high computing power, high bitcoins and money. तो इस चक्कर में ना frauds हो रहे थे, thefts, cyber crimes, thefts and crypto scams were going on. Okay, ultimately because the people who are the powerful in this network, they could manipulate the other person to do the same, and that was happening in your proof of work. Proof of work, POW, or proof of work. Okay, अब इसका improved version you had as a proof of stake. अब stake से पता चल रहा है, so it's called POS. अब stake से पता चल रहा है कि something is at stake here in case of the proof of stake. It's proof of stake. So what is happening here? People are like staking their coins. एक अलग से stake बना देते हैं, उसमें इनके पास जितने भी bitcoins हैं they stake. And कितने stake करें, like for example if they want to, I'm giving you like just an example, the amount that they stake is more than the amount of transactions that they mine. अगर transactions, they are mining the transactions of like 5,000 rupees, so the coins that they would stake would be of 10,000 rupees. And वो stake क्यों कर रहे हैं? अगर 5,000 rupees में कुछ भी गलत हुआ, इन्होंने कोई भी fraud करा, तो इनके 10,000 rupees गए. Okay, that is why now these people cannot commit fraud. अब जो भी सब फ्रॉड्स एंड ऑल होते हैं, मतलब कि क्रिप्टो स्कैम्स हो गया, मतलब कि क्रिप्टो करेंसी नेटवर्क पे स्टोलन होगी, पीपल फ्रॉम आउटसाइड कम इनटू प्लेस एंड दे डू इट. ठीक है, बट नाउ दीज पीपल आर लाइक नॉट इन्वॉल्वड हियर, एंड मोर द हैकिंग गोज ऑन, द मोर द सिस्टम बिकम स्ट्रॉन्गर. Okay, and sometimes these hackers, they like deliberately hack these systems to tell the people that these are not a strong system. एंड ऐसे पास में भी हुआ है, बहुत सारे मतलब the cryptocurrencies were stolen and then they returned the cryptocurrencies. And they're told that we were just like playing with your system and we wanted to tell you that the system is not so strong. And they call them as the white hat hackers. Okay, so that is something. अब जितनी वो माइन कर रहे हैं उससे ज़्यादा अगर वो स्टेक कर रहे हैं and they do some fraud and theft here, उनका ज़्यादा पैसा जाएगा. So that is when उनका fraud कम हो जाता है. That's a proof of stake, or the POS as we call it, the proof of stake. Okay. Then nowadays people have been talking about the POH has come in, the proof of history. Now it is for like Solana. Solana is a cryptocurrency, a type of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, Ether, and all. You have Solana. Like it works on proof of history. So proof of history के बाद ज़्यादा नहीं हो रही. Like this is a new concept that has come into place. But what is exactly happening in the proof of history? जो भी सब transactions पहले हुई हैं मेरी buying and seller में, एक separate ledger में these transactions are like getting recorded. ओके यहाँ पर क्या होता था बस हैश फंक्शन को मतलब कि मैच करते रहते थे. ओके जो प्रीवियस हो गया वो हो गया. ठीक है वो रिकॉर्ड नहीं करते थे बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अ सेंट्रलाइज सिस्टम. बिकॉज अगर सेंट्रलाइज होता है देन आरबीआई लाइक रिकॉर्ड्स ऑल दी ट्रांजैक्शंस एंड ऑल. ठीक है बट इस केस में ऐसा नहीं होता. ओके सो दिस इज वन थिंग. सो सोलाना के केस में सब ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही हैं रिकॉर्ड जो पहली वाली भी ट्रांजैक्शंस थी. ठीक है. नाउ कमिंग बैक, प्रूफ ऑफ स्टेक की हमने बात करी है. वी टॉक्ड अबाउट द प्रूफ ऑफ स्टेक, राइट. वी आल्सो टॉक्ड अबाउट द प्रूफ ऑफ स्टेक. नाउ हाँ, हमें we know that what is a public ledger, right? We know that what is a public ledger. We know, एक second, yeah. We know what's a decentralized system. We know what's a peer-to-peer network. We know what's a cryptography. We know consensus algorithm. We know the proof of work or reward. We know the proof of stake. We know the proof of history or Solana, right? Now, what are the uses of the blockchain network? People tend to say that blockchains are used only in terms of the cryptocurrency, and they cannot be used for any other scenario, and that is something wrong. The cryptocurrencies, buying and selling the cryptocurrencies are only the one use of the blockchains which have been hyped currently. Okay, like which have been hyped currently कि ये use है वो use है. ठीक है. Which have been hyped currently. Like when I talk about the uses of blockchain, but there are other uses as well. They can be used in education. How they can be used in education? You might have heard a large amount of scams regarding the mark sheets and all. कि marksheet में marks किसी और के होते हैं. But a person who gets the access to that mark sheet, he changes the name and like writes his own name. Similarly, in like top certifications also, or like CFA, CA maybe, अगर का मतलब कि certificate लेके they tend to change the name of the person and put their own name, and that is they are doing very easily through your all kinds of technologies and editing stuff is there. But in a blockchain, if these certifications or these degrees are stored on a blockchain network, you cannot edit those because again they would be stored with a hash function. If someone is coming in and trying to tamper the chain, वो कोई भी change करना चाहेगा ना, अगर वो download भी करना चाहेगा, the chain would be tampered and the trigger would be created and people will get to know that chain has been tampered. You cannot even download it from there. तुम कुछ भी करोगे, that hash function will get changed. And once the previous hash function will not match with the new hash function, जो हमने पढ़ा था diagonally, it means something is wrong and people won't trust this application. Okay, so in terms of education also this can be used. If it is used, तो कुछ कंट्रीज में यूज करा भी गया था बट बहुत कंट्रीज में नहीं होता. जस्ट लाइक 0.0001% कंट्री स्टार्टेड टू यूज इट बट अभी यूज नहीं करते ज़्यादा. सो दैट इज द सिनेरियो इन टर्म्स ऑफ वोटिंग आल्सो. लाइक देयर वाज अ कंट्री इन योर साउथ अफ्रीका. Okay, I'll just tell you the name of that country. Yeah, Sierra Leone. It was a state in your South Africa. There, the voting system, the voting was done, or elections were done through the blockchain network. And how the elections can be done through the blockchain network. Like for example, when we're going to cast our vote, ultimately the votes are being counted by the voting machine, and still people tend to blame the machine that something has gone wrong and all these things. Okay. So basically, what basically is happening in all these scenarios in the case of the voting and all, if the voting is done using a blockchain network, you cannot even track that who has voted. His name won't be there. Like, let me tell you how. See, in the case of a blockchain network now, like we are using a public key and a private key. So let's take an example of an email. I'll go to the whiteboard. So what basically happens in an email, you have a public key and a private key. Your username in the sense like my name is Moira, so my username might be like Maurya Hanspal at gmail.com. It's a public key because it is visible to everyone. Like so, whosoever I mail some content, some data, some files, documents, my username is available. But my password is available to no one. But my password is available to no one. And that's a private key because my password is available to no one. Similarly, in case of a blockchain network also, you have a public key and a private key. Private key is the password of your wallet. Username में तुम्हारा नाम नहीं होगा. The username would be in the form of a hash 2 3 मतलब एक code type होगा. An encrypted code would be your username. And encrypted code would be your username. मैं नाम के तो even तुम नाम भी नहीं जान सकते लोगों का वहाँ पे. So इतना private है तुम्हारा crypto network. So like what will happen in case of the voting system also? जो लोग वोट कर रहे हैं उनके नाम तक नहीं आएंगे. Just a code would be there. That code XYZ 123 has voted, then the second person ka code ABCDD 123. In this type, the coding would be there, and even the name of the person cannot be done. And जो अगर votes को like if someone tries to tamper also, tries to adjust also, like manipulate also, that can create a problem. Further problems as well. Okay, so that is the scenario that you need to look upon as well. Okay, and it creates a safer protocol, a safer issue in that scenario. Okay. Then you have the foreign fund transfer again. Like what basically happens when you want to transfer some fund to outside India, like you have a limit under the liberalized remittance scheme, LRS, like $250,000. उसमें कोई limit नहीं है. Even if you want to transfer the funds, like the bank is involved within it, the bank will do the verification, and that can take a long time to transfer your funds also. In the case of a normal fund transfer, like foreign fund transfer. But in the case of a blockchain network, since there is no centralized authority, the centralized authority है ही नहीं, in that case it is easier for you to transfer your funds also, and immediate fund transfer होगा because like there would be no verification also. Okay, but now the task would be to basically like convert those cryptos into your dollars and then like withdraw them. So that is ultimately all upon you. Then for payments also, I told you like same as foreign fund transfer, like if I want to pay someone, in that case you can use a crypto. और स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स की बात करते हैं. गिव मी अ सेकंड. Yeah. So basically, what is happening? Let's assume he's a buyer. A. Here I have a seller B. Now he is selling maybe wheat to it. He's the seller. He's the buyer. He's the seller. He's the buyer. Okay. Now, in a case of a smart contract, an escrow kind of account would be created in between. So what's an escrow account में ये होता है कि जब तक all your money comes here, your wheat also comes up here. जो भी ट्रांजैक्शन का बाइंग एंड सेल है सब एस्क्रो अकाउंट में आ जाता है पहले ही, सो दैट नन ऑफ देम डिफॉल्ट ऑन देयर कमिटमेंट. हो सकता है कि बायर इसके पैसे दे दे बट ये वीट उसको डिलीवर ना करे. हो सकता है वो वीट ए को दे दे बट ए बी को अपने पैसे ना दे. So all the wheat and all the money that A has to pay to B is stored in this escrow account. And once it is stored in this escrow account, once the transaction is done, contracts पेपर से validate हो जाते हैं. ठीक है. खुद ही खुद बीट इसको मिल जाता है एंड पैसे इसके पास पहुंच जाते हैं. So that's an escrow account basically. So that's a smart contract which works on the blockchain network. ठीक है. These are smart contracts. They have a crowdfunding. Though India में equity crowdfunding is not allowed. I'll tell you the concept of like crowdfunding also. A platform is created, and if a company wants to like raise some money for anything, like for a project or for any new expansion, diversification, kuch bhi, or like for some new kind of initiative or social initiative, then people would be giving money to this company. That's a crowdfunding platform. Needs to be a crowdfunding platform. तो ये चीजें भी can be done through the blockchain network. इंडिया में ज्यादा नहीं होता, but वैसे the blockchain network can be used. One thing additionally I want to tell you, you might have heard about a country in Central America, El Salvador. Just try to have a better. El Salvador. Okay. So what is happening in this country? They have crypto ko they have made it as a legal tender. Crypto को they have made it as a legal tender. Legal tender बन गया है crypto यहाँ पे. Okay. Yeah. अब now people have also started to question this country कि आपने इसको legal tender बना दिया है, so that can hamper like your currency also, because now people would be like doing the transactions on crypto. And since the crypto is not centralized, some like malpractices can also be done there. Like for example, your terrorism funding and all other things can also be done, because ultimately like no central authority would be involved here. Okay, in case of the El Salvador, the legal tender scenario as we call it. Okay, so this country has like fully adopted it. Okay, पता होनी चाहिए बात. Now like further discussions are going on. Now what do we mean by altcoins? Like when we talk about altcoins, कोई coin नहीं है. We mean alternate coins except your Bitcoin. Okay, people say that what is an altcoin? Like they generate type those altcoins on the crypto exchanges, but उनको specific altcoin मिलता नहीं है. ठीक है. They do not get that specific altcoin there, and that creates a problem. तो altcoin कोई specific coin नहीं है. Altcoin is a separate coin. Okay, so that is the scenario like when we talk about an altcoin. And now there are like varied coins, and why these altcoins came into play, because always they want to suggest themselves as an improved version over the previous coins. See, ETH, specifically I wrote here ETH Ether, which is your altcoin. It's not a blockchain network, it's a cryptocurrency. 25 seconds. In case of a Bitcoin, it was taking 10 minutes to validate your transactions. It means the miners were sitting in between. They're taking 10 minutes to validate the transaction, that is if everything is correct or not. Okay. In Ether, it just takes 25 seconds to validate the transactions. Then we have one more alternate coin, Ripple. Ripple just took 4 seconds. Shorter time than Ripple Litecoin, 2.4 seconds. Okay. These Doge coins and Shiba Inu coins, these are basically called the shit coins. So like basically like what is like deriving these coins and all, like if some a great person reads about these coins. Like for example, at some point of time, Mr. Elon must say that he won't be accepting the cryptocurrencies and all. At that time, the market crashes. But the other time, like when he said they have started to accept the Bitcoin, Shiba Inu as a legal tender for their operation, the market starts to rise. Okay, so again, see, beat any of the currency, be it a Bitcoin or like, no, these currencies have no fundamentals. But why people believe on Bitcoin and either more because the Bitcoin is something which is scarce, and if something is scarce, that has a value. And why Ethereum? Because all the cryptocurrencies or tokens that are coming up and they're working on these platforms or the blockchain network of Ethereum only, be it your Polygon Matic. It's an Indian crypto which works on the Ether network. Then you have the Pi, of the Tether coin. So all these are some of the cryptocurrency which you can call them as the alternate cryptocurrencies. These alternate cryptocurrencies are into place. Okay, and what are these cryptocurrencies basically doing? That being an improved version. So all these coins that have come into place, your Shiba Inu, your Dogecoin, your Polygon Matic coin, your Pi network, and Tether coins. So what all these coins are doing? Again, these coins they settle all the transactions in a matter of seconds. Like not just they took like 4 seconds or 2.5 seconds also. Because now the network is like more developed. Because now the network has become like more developed, and people tend to have like more faith on them. Not basically faith, but they have learned how to like tackle this network. Okay, so that is one thing which these people are going for, and that is why these new and alternative coins are like coming into place. So like this was the session like where we try to understand all these kinds of like blockchains or differences between a blockchain and the cryptocurrency and what is like Web 3.0 and all Bitcoin, stable coins, initial coins offerings. So all these things are they are like which you need to know. Okay.